Hello, my friends. It's Miss Maria from the Kennebunk Free Library. As you can see, I'm wearing my fairy crown again today, and I chose my green fairy wings to share this story with you because it is called Edie the Garden Fairy. It's part of the Rainbow Magic series, and specifically, it's part of the Earth Fairies series. It's written by Daisy Meadows, who wrote all the Rainbow Magic books, and it's published by Scholastic. Thank you, Scholastic, for letting me share this book today with my friends. I wanted to share this book this week because Edie is part of the Earth Fairies, and this week is Earth Day. It's a special day of the year when we really celebrate all the things that make the planet Earth wonderful, like the trees and flowers and oceans, things that we celebrate all the time. But we have a special day, especially just for that. So I wanted to share this book with you this week. Let me read a little bit about what this story is about. I'll read you the back. It says, "The fairies are going green." The Fairy King and Queen have just put together a new team of 7 fairies for a very special mission. Together, they're going to work their magic to clean up the environment. Luckily, Rachel and Kirsty are ready to help. Rachel and Kirsty are volunteering to help turn an unused lot into a beautiful garden. But first, they need to find Edie the Garden Fairy's missing wand before it's too late. Find the missing magic wand and help save the environment. So you can see it's all about planting and helping to make the earth beautiful. At the beginning here, there's a map of where the story takes place, Rainspell Island. And it includes the Fairyland Palace and Jack Frost's Ice Castle. And it starts here with a poem, like our other book did. And this poem, like that one, is written by Jack Frost. I'll share it with you. It says, "The Earth Fairies must be dreaming if they think they can escape my scheming. My goblins are by far the greenest, and I am definitely the meanest. 7 fairies out to save the earth. The very idea fills me with mirth. I'm sure the world has had enough of fairy magic and all that stuff. So I'm gonna steal the fairies' wands and send them into human lands. The fairies will think all is lost, defeated again by me, Jack Frost." Let's read this book and find out if Jack Frost succeeds. I hope we can help find the magic wand. Chapter 1 is called Project Green, and here's the picture. I'll be sure to share the pictures with you. Project Green. "It's another beautiful day, Kirsty," Rachel Walker exclaimed happily as she and her best friend, Kirsty Tate, hurried along the winding country lane. The blue sky above them was dotted with fluffy white clouds, and the sun was warm on their faces. "Isn't Rainspell Island just the most magical place?" "I can't think of anywhere I'd rather go on vacation," Kirsty replied, gazing over the lush green fields. The aquamarine sea sparkled in the distance, and seagulls wheeled through the crisp, salty air. Here's Rachel and Kirsty on their vacation. The Tates and the Walkers had arrived on the island 3 days ago to spend the fall break there. "It's great that we're helping to keep Rainspell Island clean and beautiful, isn't it, Rachel?" Kirsty added. "Do you have the flyer that came yesterday?" Rachel pulled the flyer out of her pocket. Project Green was written at the top, and underneath it said, would you like to help the Rainspell Gardening Club make a new garden out of an area of unused land? Then join us at our site on Butterfly Lane tomorrow. Wear old clothes. Here's what the flyer looks like. I'm glad we decided to volunteer, Kirsty said as they studied the flyer. We might have our friends the Earth Fairies to help us with the environment, but we humans have to do our part too. Rachel nodded. Rainspell Island was a very special place because it was where she and Kirsty had first become good friends with the fairies. Since then, the girls had shared many magical, amazing adventures while helping the fairies outwit cold, sly Jack Frost and his goblins. Here's a picture of Rachel and Kirsty looking at the flyer. But now it was Rachel and Kirsty's turn to ask the fairies for help. When the girls had arrived on Rainspell Island, they'd been shocked to see lots of litter scattered across the Golden Beach. They decided to ask the King and Queen of Fairyland to help clean up the human world with fairy magic. King Oberon and Queen Titania had decided that the 7 fairies currently in training would become the Earth Fairies. These fairies would help Rachel and Kirsty make the world a greener place. If the Earth Fairies were successful, they would become full-fledged permanent fairies. But just as the Fairyland wand ceremony was about to begin, the goblins stole the wands that were supposed to be given to the Earth Fairies. Then Jack Frost's icy spell immediately sent the goblins and wands spinning into the human world to hide. Jack Frost absolutely refused to help the world become greener, but Rachel and Kirsty were equally determined to make sure all 7 of the Earth Fairies got their wands back from the goblins. Then they would work together to make the world become a cleaner, greener place. We made a good start, Rachel said cheerfully. We already tracked down Nicole the Beach Fairy's wand, and Isabella the Air Fairy's too. But it's a little scary to think that there are 5 more goblins running around with fairy wands, Kirsty frowned. I hope we find them soon so the Earth Fairies can get back to work cleaning up our world. Remember what Queen Titania said, though, Rachel reminded her. Fairy magic isn't powerful enough to fix all the problems of the environment on its own. Humans have to help too. I know, Kirsty nodded. We must be very close to the Project Green area now, Rachel, she said, looking around. Here are Rachel and Kirsty talking with each other. The girls kept walking. At the end of Butterfly Lane, they came to a large, empty lot. Rachel and Kirsty could see several people at work. Some were collecting trash that had been dumped and carting it away in wheelbarrows. The girls could see old sofas, rusty bicycles, and broken toys among the junk. Some volunteers were pulling up weeds and digging through the soil. Meanwhile, others were unloading tools and plants from the backs of trucks. Here you can see everyone getting to work on the garden. There's a lot to do, Rachel whispered to Kirsty. This doesn't look like a garden at all yet. As the girls drew closer, they saw a woman in overalls carrying a long silver banner that had Project Green printed on it in tall emerald green letters. The woman began trying to hang the banner over a big wooden arch at the entrance of the lot, but it was so long that she got tangled up in it. Rachel and Kirsty rushed to help. You can see in that picture of the garden, Rachel and Kirsty rushing to help with the banner. "Oh, thank you," the woman said breathlessly as the girls helped her. Soon, they had draped the banner over the arch. "Have you come to volunteer?" The girls nodded eagerly. "I'm Rachel, and this is my friend Kirsty," Rachel explained. "Fantastic." The woman smiled at them. "My name's Janet, and I'm the head volunteer. It's really important that we get the garden set up as soon as possible because..." Janet glanced anxiously at her watch. "In a very short time, the builders and their bulldozers are arriving to turn this space into a parking lot." Here's a picture of Janet. "That's terrible," Kirsty gasped. "We've been learning at school how important green spaces are," Rachel added. "Yes, we need more parks for people to enjoy, not more parking lots," Janet said firmly. "The only person with the power to stop the builders is the mayor of Rainspell Island himself. We explained to the mayor that we want to show him how this space would work well as a garden. And he's promised to come by in an hour to see for himself." "Only an hour?" Rachel exclaimed. "That doesn't give us much time." Here's a picture of Rachel. "How can we help?" asked Kirsty. "See the fields around the vacant lot?" Janet pointed at the fields that bordered the land on two sides. "You can dig holes and plant saplings around the edges of the garden. Then, when the trees have grown, they'll protect the space from the wind and rain. Come on, I'll find some shovels for you." Here's Janet explaining the project. Rachel and Kirsty followed Janet across the lot. More volunteers were arriving all the time, and there was a buzz of activity as everyone got to work. "Start over there at the corner of the field and make sure you space the holes evenly," Janet told the girls as she handed each of them a shovel. "Here are the saplings, the little trees. We have oak, beech, and ash. If you have any problems, come and find me." With a quick smile, Janet dashed off to welcome a new group of volunteers. Rachel and Kirsty each collected an armload of tiny saplings and then headed toward the edge of the vacant lot. Suddenly, the saplings in Rachel's arms began to tremble slightly and tickle her nose. Rachel gasped. Here you can see Rachel and Kirsty walking with their saplings. And you can see the saplings that Rachel is holding are twitching a little bit, tickling her nose. I wonder why. She really wanted to scratch the tip of her nose, but her arms were full. "Oh, Kirsty, help," she called. "The saplings are tickling my nose. I think I'm going to sneeze, and then I might drop everything." Kirsty immediately put down her own saplings and hurried over to Rachel. Her friend was twitching her nose in an effort to keep from sneezing. Quickly, Kirsty took the saplings from Rachel's arms. She looked closely at the tiny trees and then gave a cry of delight. "Oh, that's better," Rachel sighed with relief, rubbing her nose vigorously. "But why were the saplings shaking like that, Kirsty?" Kirsty laughed. "Try and guess." "Is there a spider or a bee hiding in there?" asked Rachel. "No, but we have seen these creatures before, and they have shimmery wings," Kirsty replied, her eyes twinkling. "A butterfly?" Rachel guessed. "We are on Butterfly Lane, after all." Kirsty shook her head. She set the saplings on the ground and motioned for Rachel to look more closely. Once again, the saplings quivered and trembled, and then a glittery fairy fluttered out of the branches. "Can you see the tiny fairy fluttering out of the branches? I bet that's Edie. That's the end of chapter 1. And that brings us to chapter 2, which is called Garden Magic. Here we go. The fairy hovered in front of Rachel and Kirsty, a huge smile on her face. She wore a pretty blue sundress, a pink hat, and cute pink rain boots with white polka dots. She carried a straw basket in her hand. "Girls, remember me?" she said. "I'm Edie the Garden Fairy." Here's a good color picture of Edie. You can see her pink boots and her straw basket. "Hello again, Edie," Rachel said with a laugh. "If you're here, then that means your wand must be close by," Kirsty said eagerly. Edie nodded. "Yes, and I need your help to get it back, girls," she replied. As you know, I don't have much magic of my own because I'm still in training. Getting my wand back will give me a magical boost, and then I'll be able to start taking care of gardens everywhere." Here's Edie talking with Rachel and Kirsty. "We'd love to help, Edie," Kirsty explained, "but we promised to plant all these saplings. We have to make this empty lot look green and beautiful before the mayor arrives, or else it'll be turned into a parking lot," Rachel added. Edie looked horrified. "Girls, we can work on the garden and look for my wand," she assured them. "Green spaces are so important. I'll help you plant the saplings, and we can keep an eye out for the goblin who has my wand at the same time. I just know he's here somewhere." Here's Edie. Can you see the surprised expression on her face? Because she's worried about the land being turned into a parking lot. The girls were at the very edge of the garden, far from the other volunteers. Edie stayed hidden among the saplings, just to be on the safe side. Meanwhile, Kirsty began digging holes, pacing the distance between each one carefully. Rachel followed behind her, planting the saplings. "You could plant them in rows of 3, Edie suggested, peeking out to watch. "Oak, then beech, then ash, and so on." "Good idea," Kirsty agreed, beginning to dig another hole. Here are the girls digging holes for the saplings. "Oh," she panted, "the ground's really hard here." Edie snapped her fingers, and a few sparkles of fairy magic drifted down onto the ground. Kirsty tried again, and this time her shovel slid smoothly into the earth. "Thanks, Edie," she said with a laugh. Here's Edie helping to make the ground able to dig. Kirsty and Rachel continued planting the saplings around the edge of the garden. Even though they were working hard, they kept an eye out for goblins. But there wasn't any sign of a single one. "We're almost finished planting these 2 sides now," Rachel said with satisfaction. She turned and glanced over to where the other volunteers were hard at work. "The garden's starting to look a lot better, isn't it?" Kirsty nodded. "Look, there's someone handing out cups of water," she said. "Should we get a drink before we finish up here?" "Yes, and I'm coming too," Edie whispered. She fluttered out of the saplings and dived into Rachel's pocket. There's Edie diving into Rachel's pocket. The girls walked across the garden, stopping to look at the various projects the other volunteers were working on. "Hi, girls," called Janet, who was planting rows of sweet-scented lavender bushes. "We're making mini gardens. Come and see." Can you see the mini gardens that are being planted? Rachel and Kirsty hurried over. One of the mini gardens was full of herbs, planted in circular beds, and another was full of beautiful, fragrant shrubs with pink, white, and purple flowers. And that one's a wild garden, Janet explained, pointing at the plot next to hers, where people were planting poppies, daisies, and cornflowers. We chose plants that attract wildlife because we want this garden to be a place for people and animals to enjoy. Here's a picture of the garden. They're working very hard on it. Kirsty turned as a flash of rusty brown caught her eye. I think it's working already, she laughed and pointed across the garden. Rachel, Janet, and the others turned just in time to see a fox dart between the piles of junk. They all grinned. This will be a perfect place for foxes and other wildlife, Edie whispered, popping out of Rachel's pocket. The girls had grabbed their water and were heading back to finish planting the saplings. Next time we come to Rainspell Island, everything will have grown a little more, Kirsty said. It'll be amazing to know that we helped plant the garden, Rachel. As long as the gardening club can convince the mayor to cancel the parking lot, Rachel reminded her friend with a sigh. Suddenly, she gasped in horror. Kirsty, look at our saplings! Kirsty cried out in surprise as she stared at the tiny trees they'd planted. Half the saplings had been pulled from the earth. They were now laying limply on the ground. What happened? Rachel wondered. Kirsty shook her head. All their hard work was ruined. There are the saplings lying on the ground. I wonder how that happened. And that's the end of Chapter 2. Thank you for listening with me. I'll share the next 2 chapters on Wednesday. I can't wait to see what happens. I wonder how those saplings ended up all pulled out of the ground. We'll find out on Wednesday. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.